Dude, I've just got one question for you. Who is going to beat Haiden Deegan? Because every time we think we've got it figured out, whether it's Chance Hymas, Joe Shimoda, Levi Kitchen, Tom Vial, Haiden Deegan comes back and answers with authority. And sticking with predictions, stick around for the end of the show because we're going to tell you guys how to win a Ride JBI hat. Nobody got it last week, but we're trying to give out a hat to someone. So stick around to the end of the show to figure out how you're going to win that.
He does, man. It seems like those guys have to be having their best day or their on day in order to challenge him and then maybe even beat him. Haiden seems to commonly get the best of them, whether he is having his best day or if he's just making up for stuff not going his way, and he's just going to make up for that and still figure out a way to win or get up front and finish in a good position. To answer your question directly, man, I think only Hayden's going to beat himself at this point. We're going to have to see a new up-and-coming challenger, and they're going to need to improve at the same rate Hayden's been improving. I think the only rider we've really seen do that so far is Julien. We saw him do really well in the All-Stars. We saw him get some great starts and lead some races in the Supercross 250 season last year. I think outdoors is a little more challenging for him, learning all the new tracks for the first time, doing the whole season. And now he's kind of back in his element where he's had some good success in the past. As of right now, man, Jet Lawrence. Yeah. But he's not even in his class. So yeah. Deegan's got it wrapped up.
It's slim pickings on who's going to be the number one. I mean, it's Deegan's world and the rest of the 250 class is just living in it. Mm-hmm. And I can't help but think for the other riders on the gate who are almost already mentally defeated when they line up next to the guy. The dude knows how to talk shit. He can back it up with his riding. And he's got the swag while he is riding. I mean, I think of his scrub on the double back onto the drag strip and just some of the passes he was able to make early on in 250 Moto 1 when he went around the outside of Levi Kitchen when they were out in the field. And it was just amazing the corner speed that he was able to carry, the precision in the rhythm section, doing that quad pretty much every lap. It seemed like when the camera was on him, he didn't make a mistake in that section where we saw Eli Tomac make some mistakes trying to do that quad. Haiden, I mean, he was just on point. Even though the starts weren't necessarily there, the speed was head and shoulders above everybody else in that class. And I mean, he left no doubt about it. He was the best, the fastest guy at SMX Dragway over the weekend.
Yeah, and you talked a lot about line choice and good insight on your part, man. He was riding some unique lines that a lot of other riders weren't doing, even the 450 class, which made me kind of think, is that just something he naturally sees? Because we've seen that a few times now throughout this summer of him taking different lines than anybody else. Or is that something he learned from somebody or a few different riders as he was coming up the ranks? But Haiden has really good creativity on the track, even in the sense of like the line he's taken is the best line and not even the most picked up on. Like, where is he getting that insight from?
The kid is just so well versed on two wheels. I think like he can rip a BMX bike. Like I've seen him do tail whips, 360s, bar spins. He's an athlete at the end of the day. I feel like he could pick up any stick and ball sport and be really good at it. Any action sport, I mean, you pick it, skateboarding, he's probably really good at. Snowboarding, obviously BMX, which we just alluded to. I think he was a scooter kid when he was like in his early teen years as well. And I think with that comes a lot of different experiences. He likes to think outside of the box and he can just be really creative. And he definitely has that in his arsenal when he's out there riding. And I think it was, you were telling me off camera about a comment that you saw on the internet saying he rides like JS7, but has better technique. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I mean, that is just to a T with Haiden Deegan. He can hang it out, but he's really disciplined on the bike. It doesn't seem like his feet are just bowed out away from the bike all the time. You can see him really gripping that YZ250F for pretty much everything it's got. Elbows are always up, flat back, hips are out. And I mean, he's picture perfect. If you were to tell someone how to ride a bike, technique-wise, I feel like he's a really good rider to look at. As far as how much power and revs he's using, maybe, but also there's two schools of thought depending on what CC size you are riding. Let's move on to our next rider who you were talking about earlier, Julien Beaumer, second place on the day. And this was really his breakout ride, in my opinion, just because he got a lot of TV time. He led a good majority of 250 Moto 1.
Could have won the thing almost.
Yeah, and he had great starts race. Granted, we have seen some flashes of brilliance from Julien throughout the Supercross and even the Pro Motocross season, but it's really been interrupted due to bad starts, crashes, injuries. But over the weekend was the first day he could really put a whole day together, qualifying both motos, starts, the speed, the intensity, and we really got to see where Julien Beaumer is currently at in his young professional career.
I think he's only going to get better. He seems like one of those riders that as they turn pro, they still have a lot of potential on the table to keep finding speed. You don't always see that. You see a lot of riders turn pro and they get a little bit better, but they kind of settle into where they think their place is, wherever that may be. Julien seems like one of those riders that he knows he can keep getting better and he's going to keep getting better. Will that be next year? I don't know, but I think 2 years' time from now, when not only he's grown as a rider mentally, he's gotten more experience, but also physically as a person. He's at the point of his age physicality where he is grown into an adulthood. We saw the same thing happen with Adam Cinturello. Granted, there was a much bigger change with him being a kid to a grown adult. I don't think we'll have the same with Julien, but he's definitely going to keep getting more physique and build to him. It's going to really help him manhandle that bike. In other words, when Haiden turned pro and got on a 250F, he did not ride that bike like he does now. It took him kind of a transition period of getting used to the bike, getting confidence, and again, also growing as a rider physically and mentally.
Getting those gate drops, getting that extra experience, he's only going to gain in confidence, ability, and speed. And he's on a great team. Red Bull KTM Factory Racing hasn't won a 250F title in, gosh, I can't even think the last time they really won a title in the 250 class, but obviously that bike is very competitive over in Europe during the MXGP series. He's on a great team, a great program. He's got really good people around him. I think Davey Millsaps is his trainer and is there pretty much day to day with Julien. That's a really good mentor for Julien, a guy who's been there, done that. I mean, Millsaps was a prodigy at one point pretty much. Factory Suzuki from a really young age, injuries, success, highs and lows of the sport. Davey Millsaps has done it. Over the next year, maybe even 2 years, there's going to be a big progression curve that we see, not only in his riding, but in his results as well.
Yeah, just to briefly expand on that, I think he's in a good spot equipment-wise because likely we're not going to see a huge change in the KTM platform. Big update in 2023. As we heard from some riders, they weren't too thrilled on the bike, but it's noticeably getting better each season and each year as they come around. The Cowie guys, they got a new bike coming out. I think they'll pick up on it pretty quick, but it's still a brand new bike and some unknowns involved with that.
And that leads into the next rider I want to talk about, Levi Kitchen, who was third overall in the day. And for the chef, really good day. I can't help but wonder if he wins Moto 1, if it doesn't get red flagged, restarted, because he was out front. Then the red flag came out and he slid pretty much, he got like a 7th place start. And you know, it sucks for a guy like him. That was a situation out of his control. But then again, it's the same for everyone. Everyone has to go line up again. For Levi, kind of a mixed day. You can look at it in two ways. Dang it, I didn't beat Haiden Deegan. Also, hey, I was right there, 250 Moto 2. I was only a couple seconds back. If I could make a push towards the end of the races, I have a good shot at winning the motos and the overalls. So depending on two ways you can look at it, but I think for the chef, another great round, and he's finishing off the season strong. If he's able to snag those seconds, those thirds, and maybe even sneak in a moto win or an overall, this is a great cap to his first season aboard the Monster Energy Pro Circuit Kawasaki.
Yeah, well said, man. It really is. It may not have gone exactly how he had hoped. When things weren't just working against him as they had numerous times this outdoor season, he was making things work really well for him. So I'm excited to see him continue his ride over at Pro Circuit.
Let's move on to our next rider, who I think we have a lot to talk about, RJ Hampshire. He provided us with some entertainment,
big time
speed, intensity, crashes, bar banging with Haiden Deegan for a little bit. We hope to see more in the future, but
can't wait.
Yeah, what did you think of Hampshire's ride over the weekend?
Exactly what I hoped and was expecting out of him, not counting the crash. I'm glad he's okay from that. I'm glad nothing became worse from that, meaning it looked like he continued to ride with that front number plate hanging there. And I was worried about it maybe getting caught up in the wheel or them trying to rip it off and messing up the brake line, causing the brakes to malfunction. I was just kind of worried, thinking you need to pull off for a sec, have somebody safely remove the front number plate. But beyond that, I was jumping up and down. I thought we were about to see some fun fireworks between him and Haiden, just going neck and neck. I know Haiden had to pass, but that corner they're going into was a left. So RJ was going to have the inside going into it. And I don't think RJ was going to just cruise into that corner on the inside. He would have probably tried to push back and get the pass back on him. But if this is our kind of preview of those two for the next 2 rounds, I'm excited.
But he's a guy who, I think we've talked about this in other JBI race recaps or preview shows, where he could play spoiler. He's a guy who could easily snag a moto win, put his name in the hat for a second, third place overall, and really take points away from a guy like Haiden Deegan or Levi Kitchen. We could see some fireworks in round 2 and round 3. Obviously, it's double points for round 2, triple points for round 3. So it's only going to get more exciting, and they're upping the ante as we get towards the end of this thing. One other rider I want to talk about and give a huge shout out to is Joe Shimoda, coming back from his collarbone injury that he sustained at Unadilla. I think he's roughly 3 weeks out of surgery, which is freaking gnarly.
Yeah.
But shout out to Joe, because with Joe, we can see him get a 7th, 8th place finish, which is pretty mediocre for Joe Shimoda standards, but we can also see him win at the drop of a dime.
Yeah.
So for him to just kind of slot in right in the middle, it's SMX, kind of making some educated guesses on the bike setup, as well as coming back from an injury, it's a very good performance for a guy like him.
For sure. I can't imagine what the collarbone would feel like with some supercross suspension, going down a fast straightaway, and then hammering on the brakes, going through some braking bumps. That's just going to transmit a lot of energy and force back into there. He had to be pretty mentally strong to go ride that race and put out of his mind, I can't tip over or crash over because there's a chance I could re-injure this and make it even worse than before. And he made it look like the way he rode did not indicate he was coming back from broken collarbone.
Injuries are a part of the sport, but I want to touch on Julien Swoll and just give him a shout out for going down. We hope to see Julien back soon, but it just seems like, again, the injury bug or Black Cat is roaming around the Triumph rig and just kind of claiming those guys, whether it's injuries, technical issues causing the riders to have DNFs in the motos, which is really hampering their results. But yeah, I just really feel for Julien because he's put in some great rides throughout Supercross and Motocross, and we hope to see him back soon.
He has. Who do you think is going to be his new teammate?
Good question. Sounds like there's some rumors that Austin Faulkner might be heading over there.
Okay.
What is confirmed is Styles Robertson, who will be exiting his seat from Monster Energy Star Racing Yamaha, will be going over to the Triumph Factory Racing team.
Good for him.
And another rider also exiting Star Racing Yamaha will be Jordan Smith and joining Styles Robertson and Julien Swoll over at Triumph Factory Racing. But
nice.
The question mark as of right now, from what I know, is Austin Faulkner. He's been a long time Monster Energy Pro Circuit Kawasaki rider, but his future is a bit uncertain as of if he's going to resign or if he's going to go on a new venture and join the Triumph Factory Racing team. So we will see. We're just about a month away from a lot of contracts being announced, which is normally early October. That's when a lot of contracts either expire at the very end of September and a lot of contracts get kicked into gear. That's going to cap it off for this JBI race recap / preview show. Before we let you guys go, we talked about earlier how you can win a JBI hat, the one that JB is wearing, not the exact one. We'll give you a freshie, not a used one. But comment down below your top 3, your podium, 1, 2, and 3. The first person to get it in exact order, fully correct, will win a free Ride JBI hat. We will ship it to you, no expenses spared. So yeah, we're trying to get some more JBI merch onto some new people. So whether you have JBI suspension or not. But thank you guys for watching. We really appreciate you guys tuning in to these race recap shows, and we will see you guys in the next one.